Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Sam.
And I'm Melissa.
And we are going to answer some more questions.
Yeah, one question that we had gotten in one of our lives, we had talked about Sam being in a really bad accident when he was younger.
The great accident of 2003.
So we were going to talk a little bit about that. And it might actually be even a little bit longer because it's quite an interesting story. But one of the main reasons why it's pretty interesting, it kind of answers a lot of questions people have about medical care, like what the FLDS allow as far as medical care. And then also it really changed Sam's personality, actually, after being in a coma for a couple days.
It was a definite life changer for me. And it could have been many different factors, but I guess we'll get into that and answer some of those questions, and you can decide for yourself why it changed me.
Yeah. So starting out, I guess the first question is explain a little bit of just like the dynamic, like where were your parents and who were you with?
Yeah. So let's see here. Some of my parents or some of the mothers were in the home still. I guess 3 of the mothers were in the home. We had just finished dinner. My father and his first wife were in their vehicle, and they were driving down to St. George, Utah. And their purpose for going was to meet up with some people down there, and they were going to dinner with these, I believe it was actually some of the older brothers and sisters of mine, or not sisters, some of my older brothers that had previously moved out at that point. And so they were going down to meet up with them.
Yeah, a long time ago, they were allowed to interact with people who left. Yeah. Like, they couldn't necessarily go back to your parents' home, right, but they could meet up with them, right?
Way back in the day, when the first sibling of mine to ever move out, he moved out before I was ever born, actually. So he was a lot older, and he moved out, and he would actually come home for Thanksgiving dinners.
Really?
Yeah. So way back when things like that, like them coming home for special events and that type of thing, was allowed. So it got a lot more strict as time went on.
Gotcha. So at this point, though, they were allowed to go and spend time with their kids. Okay.
And so they were going down there to meet up with a couple of my brothers that had moved out. Anyway, and Father liked this thing. He liked to test his vehicles and see how far he could go after the gas light turned on. So
we all have tried that before, haven't we?
So it was his thing. He would always talk about it. Okay, I got a new vehicle. I got to test it. See how far I can go.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, I don't know why. It was just his thing. But anyway, he tested it. He took it a little bit too far this time, I guess. And he was on his way down to St. George, and he ran out of gas. So he was stranded on the side of the road with one of the mothers.
And just so everyone has a little bit of perspective, Hilldale is about 45 minutes away from St. George. So it's not super far, but not super close if you run out of gas halfway either.
And he was in the middle of nowhere, anyway, off the side of the road. And so he calls one of my older brothers and says, "Hey, I need gas. Let's get it here as quickly as possible so that we can get on our way." Anyway, so it was me and 4 of my older brothers. Every one of them was actually older than me at this time. Well, still are. But anyway, they were all older than me. And we decided to make it a little boys' trip. So we all jumped into the truck, and we were flying to get gas for Father and one of the mothers stranded on the road. And on our way up to the gas station to get the gas, we were going a little bit too fast down one of the main streets there in the small town that we grew up in. And I don't know for sure if it was getting dark. In fact, it might have been dark at this time. But I don't know if the van that was crossing the road didn't see us or didn't look both ways. I don't know for sure. But we were going too fast. A van pulled out in front of us, and we just went right. Just hit it dead on in the middle of this. It was like a 15-passenger van. And we hit that so hard that we looked at the pictures afterwards, and the van almost was cut in half.
Was everybody in the van okay?
So you're just worried about the people in the van, huh?
I'm starting there, and then we'll go to yours.
I'm just kidding. Yes.
When you say that a van's almost cut in half, yes, my first thought is those people.
The good news with that is there were only 2 passengers in this van, and they were both in the driver and passenger seat. So we hit right behind them. So thank goodness for that. So no one in the van was killed, and in fact, one of them had a broken arm, and the other one was just banged up a little bit, but they were both conscious, and they seemed to be all considered pretty well off.
Okay.
For
how bad of an accident it was.
So that was anyway. So and at that point, after we hit the van went flying at this. I don't know exactly how far, but the truck we were in, it actually rolled several times. So it hit the van and then just kept rolling over a few times. In the process of rolling, the driver of the truck actually was ejected and flew out. I assume either the side or the windshield. Either way, he was ejected and he went flying. I mean, it took the first responders a long time to find him, actually.
Did you guys so obviously he didn't have a seatbelt on. Did any of you other boys have your seatbelts on?
No.
Okay. And at this point, you're still in the town, right? Like you were on your way to get gas. You weren't like on the highway headed to your father yet.
We were on one of the main streets in town.
Okay.
Yep. So there were 5 of us. Okay. The driver was ejected, and he was found later on, hundreds of feet away from the truck, up against the fence post. So he was ejected, and anyway, landed a ways off from the truck. And the other, there were 4 more of us in the truck at this point. Only one of us, which he was in the passenger seat. Only one of us was conscious, actually, after the impact. So the rest of us in the truck, well, all of us except for this one brother, we were just knocked out, unconscious at this point. So anyway, my brother that was conscious, obviously he was very, I mean,
freaking
just
out.
In shock.
I can't imagine.
Just in shock. The door was still locked, but somehow the door that on the passenger's side was still locked, but they actually, it was somehow opened. I don't know if he was just in that stage of shock where he had this super strength that you hear of people having and banged it open. But the only thing that he really suffered from was actually his right shoulder was in excruciating pain for quite some time after. So it makes me wonder if maybe he just did bang the door open with his shoulder to get out and try to make sure we were okay. But he quickly, called all of us and tried to make sure we were okay. And obviously we were just all there in a pile of blood, and he was trying to help us out of the truck. And then he went looking, trying to find the driver that was ejected. And anyway, so it was just, I can't imagine being him. It was, I'm almost just happy I was out of it and didn't really have to.
So do you have any memories? Like, what was the last thing that you remember before it happened? And what was the first thing
So I saw a bright light. No, just kidding. No. So right before it happened, I do remember I looked up and I saw the van. And I just said, oh, crap, bam. And that was that. And that was just the last thing I remembered for a little bit. I don't remember the actual impact. I don't remember rolling. I don't remember any of that. But I do remember, this was a winter night. So I do remember briefly while I was on the ground outside of the truck when they had pulled me out, the EMTs were there and the first responders were there. And I do remember people calling my name. Okay. Just saying, Samuel, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Are you okay? And just asking the general things. So I do remember just in and out, just small little snippets of that, but that was it. And then I don't remember the ride in the ambulance or any of that.
Okay, so that happens, and the accident happens. Did the brother who was still awake, did he call 911? Did someone witness it? Did anybody see it?
There was someone that was, I believe, either very, very close by and heard the impact and then rushed over, or they saw it. I don't remember exactly.
Okay, but someone was able to call 911.
Yes, but there were also other people that were working nearby and they heard impact, and so they rushed over to see what had happened as well. So people were very quickly gathering around and calling 911 and all of that. I don't believe that my brother called 911. He was too worried and trying to make sure we were okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then obviously the ambulances show up, everyone shows up, and they're doing the best they can. And yes, the community out there had very good ambulances, fire trucks, and police departments, paramedics, EMTs, all that. They had very well trained
people that
first
take care
responders.
of it.
Yeah.
And for people who ask too, like whether or not there's like they let them go to hospitals or things like that? Obviously, yes. So they went in an ambulance, took them to St. George, wasn't it?
Before we get to St.
sorry.
George, no, you're fine. So father at this point, he's sitting in his vehicle, stranded, waiting for his gas, right? Him and one of the mothers. And anyway, so it's taking way longer than expected, and so he's trying to call to figure out what's going on. And then at this time, he's the mayor of Hilldale City, so everyone knows him. When they see who it is, they automatically know that we are his sons. Anyway, so the fire chief gives him a call to let him know that, hey, there's a really bad accident that just happened, and several of your boys are involved in this. So he's stranded on the side of the road, and he gets no gas, and he gets this phone call, and then as he's sitting there, he just sees these ambulances just flying by.
Makes my heart drop. Like, I can't imagine as a parent being any worse feeling than knowing that your kids are on ambulances going past you.
No, I can't imagine either. Anyway, so several ambulances flying by, and at this time he knows my boy is in that one, my boy's in that one. He knows that his sons are in these ambulances, but there's nothing he can do. They're just flying by. Anyway, he explains to the fire chief his situation. The fire chief brings him gas as quickly as possible so that he can rush down to the emergency room in the hospital in St. George, Utah. And actually, we were the first people rushed into this new emergency room. It was the new hospital was built. The new hospital had just been built there, so this brand new facility. Anyway, so we were some of the first. I was told the first people rushed into this emergency room. Anyway, so they rushed us down there as quickly as possible. I was told, obviously, I don't remember any of this, but I was told that we were all laid out. Or let's see. So there were 3 of us laid out because one of my brothers remained conscious throughout it all, and another one of my brothers quickly woke up. Well, he was kind of in and out of it, but he woke up fairly quickly from being unconscious. So he was awake in the hospital, and my other brother that was conscious throughout it all was awake. So there were 3 of us laid out on these I guess stretchers, beds.
Yeah.
And anyway, you can only imagine, but father and the mother that was with him, they rush into the hospital and they see us laying out there. And he actually, at the time, thought that I was the one that was worse off, because I guess my eyes were open, but were rolled back in my head, so it just looked like I was...
Eyes were open, but nobody was home type thing.
Yeah. So anyway, I can't even imagine being the parent throughout all of this. I mean, just a nightmare. Anyway... But the 3 of us that were unconscious at that time were all life flighted to Las Vegas, actually, to one of the bigger hospitals down here that could take care of our needs. And
so even though it was a new hospital, were they just not set up to handle people in comas, or were there specific injuries that could only be taken care of in Las Vegas? Do you know why they transferred you?
I guess I don't know the details. Okay. I just know that it was
bad enough that you
something that required more than they had to offer at that location.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly. Maybe it required a specific type of doctor, and that doctor was only in Las Vegas. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, and Las Vegas is, well, if you're driving, not being life flighted, but if you're driving, it's 2 hours south of St. George, just an idea. So about 3 hours from Hilldale.
Right.
So when you guys got to the hospital, or the 3 of you got to the hospital in Las Vegas, what's the first thing? So you were still out, right?
Right.
How long were you in a coma for?
So total 3 days.
That would be so scary as a parent.
So 3 days, and then my other 2 brothers remained in a coma for actually a full month.
Was it both of them for a full month?
Both of them for a full month, yeah. So the driver, and then one of my other brothers that was in there. So that was crazy. I remember, obviously, I was in the
NICU.
NICU for
not NICU. Sorry, that's the baby.
No, ICU.
ICU. Yes, sorry.
ICU.
I've got babies on the on the brain.
So I was in ICU, and my other 2 brothers were, and I remained in there until I woke up. But I remember it was just such a weird, crazy feeling. I was out of it, and all of a sudden I wake up and I look around, and the first thing I see is Mother just rushing towards the bed. I guess someone had told her that I had or that I was waking up, but she had two of her sons in there. The other brother that was unconscious. One of them was also my full-blooded brother. So
I see.
she had my mother had two of us in there. Anyway, so she was probably just going back and forth between us, and anyway, so she's there, and you can just imagine the relief in her eyes that I saw when I first woke up and saw her there, and man, it was. I remember when I first woke up, the first thing I said is, I really need to go to the bathroom. That was the first thing I said. I remember that. And anyway, it was kind of weird. They said, "Oh, you can go ahead." So
you're like, wait a minute, where am I? What's going on?
My first experience in a hospital, so I didn't know anything about anything. So
yeah. And for people too, we have had people ask questions about like blood transfusions and whether or not they would be allowed to be on machines, I guess. But so the answer to both of those is yes, right? I don't know if you know whether or not you had to have a blood transfusion, but they were given whatever they needed in order to be able to stay alive and to be able to be in their coma. So absolutely, the FLDS still believe in medical intervention. They can have whatever's necessary. And his brothers that were in a coma for the full month, I mean...
No, they had tubes everywhere.
Like
feeding tubes and
they wouldn't have survived without medical intervention. So
yeah, one of the first things I wanted to do when I woke up, aside from going to the bathroom, was to see my brothers. Obviously, when I first woke up, I couldn't just spring out of bed, and I had a really bad headache. Obviously, that's what took the impact was my head, but so. As soon as a nurse could help me up and I could move or walk or anything, I wanted to go and see how they were doing. And man, I remember the first time I walked into the rooms of these brothers. Oh, I mean, I didn't even recognize them, and there was so much going on with tubes and wires and all that. It was just like a big mess. I guess for a while there, the machines were keeping them alive, from what I was told. So.
And then
anyway.
Then one of those brothers, too, they didn't think that he would make it. Did the doctors tell you?
One of my full-blooded brother that was in this, there was actually a night where, the doctor said, I don't think he's going to make it through the night. I don't think that he's going to make it. And so obviously we were all just around his bed sobbing. What else do you do? And Father asked the doctor that, just keep doing whatever you can do. Let's just give him one more day. Let's just give him one more day. Do whatever you can possibly do for him. And I just remember that we just gathered around and just prayed, and everyone, in that situation, that's all you could do.
Yeah.
And the next morning, he started to improve. Yeah. So that was a miracle, and he started to improve, and he had to go to physical therapy to learn how to walk and talk and all that again. He woke up blind, so had to get his eyesight eventually came back, but which was crazy because his eyesight came back at 20/20, and I had to get LASIK eye surgery, so that's not fair. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so he fully recovered though. Now he's completely normal. So it's crazy.
Normal, healthy, wife, kids, good life. It's crazy.
And the other brother, the same thing. Took him a little bit less physical therapy time and all of that, but he also made a full recovery. And it was definitely, we all suffered a little bit after getting out of the hospital, whether it was physical pain or just relearning how to do things. But it definitely took a while to get back up and running like normal. I remember when one of the first nights I came home, I got out of bed and I was feeling fine, and I walked up to the bedroom door to open it. I think I was just, I don't know what, I just was waking up, or I don't remember where I was headed, but I opened the door, and as I grabbed the doorknob, I actually just lost everything. I just went black, and I just collapsed. I didn't feel anything. I was just all of a sudden on the floor, So there were definitely some things that there were some side effects. It just took a little bit, but after a while, I feel normal. Maybe not. I don't know, but
yeah, no, definitely.
But this was a long time ago, and I think we've all recovered perfectly. So
yeah, what has been the biggest?
Time out. I was gonna say crazy. We none of us had any broken bones, except for the one passenger that was in the van. He had a broken arm, but none of the rest of us, not one broken bone.
So I got knocked out, but no broken bones.
So I guess we have strong bones.
I
broke my
crazy.
arm later on, so I guess I can't say that. But yeah, no broken bones, and none of us. That was crazy as well. So
that is crazy. So lucky that everybody survived.
Yeah.
Something that was that intense. But
Yeah.
what's the biggest difference in your personality? So when after this accident, he talks a lot about the fact that like it was like he was kind of a different person. I mean, you were still young because you were only 13.
Yep.
When the accident happened, but what were you like as a little boy compared to how you felt like you were afterwards?
So this is also kind of crazy for me to experience this. I, as a boy, was so shy. Just
everyone who knows him now, or you guys know just from YouTube. That's not him anymore.
I was so shy. I mean, it was to the point that I didn't feel comfortable talking to almost anyone, and just would do whatever anyone told me to do. I didn't want any argument or anything. I was just super shy. Just did whatever I was told to do.
I can't even imagine.
And I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was just very interesting. Oh, and emotional. I was very emotional too. I think I would cry over almost anything when I was a really little boy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's just the way my personality was, I guess. But so I don't know. It could have been that I was hit in the head so hard that it changed my personality, or maybe it was just all of the attention I got. I don't know for sure, or maybe a little bit of both. I don't know. But when I woke up, and it just seemed like I was a different person. I was a lot more outgoing. I felt like I could do a lot more, and I could be myself. And I wasn't so concerned about what everyone thought about me. And it's just a very interesting change that I felt when I woke up. So who knows what exactly happened, but I'm guessing it's a hit on the head. That's my guess.
But that's a story of how Sam gained his confidence.
Yeah.
And we would highly recommend not to gain confidence in this type of way. But
no, not recommended. Don't do this. Don't do this at home or on the streets.
But that's a little bit. Not a little bit. I guess we got a lot of it today.
Yep.
But about Sam's accident,
Yep.
and also a little bit more answering the questions that people had as far as medical intervention goes, and your personality a little bit of insight into Sam and what it was like growing up in polygamy and getting in car accidents.
Yeah.
So
when it came to emergencies, we were very much willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that the children and everyone was okay.
Yep.
So
anyways, if you guys have any other questions, whether it's about the accident or any other questions about Sam's growing up, then please leave them in the comment section. Like and subscribe, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
We will talk to you soon.